Welcome, everybody. It's Wednesday. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it's Wednesday. I felt like I just said it was hump day, and it is hump day today. Oh my goodness. And as you know, this is the Women's Leadership Forum coming to you live on a Wednesday hump day. This is the 10th of February. And thank goodness we are all here today. I am proud to say I've got great news for you all today. I met with the team of the Women's Leadership Forum Live, and guess what, folks? The Women's Leadership Forum and all the vendors for the event that's coming up in March, we are sold out. We have sold out. We have some terrific vendors, some old, some new, that are coming to you to present their wares. They are excited, and I'm excited because some of them, it's their first time going virtual. For us, it's the first time going virtual for our 3-day event, March 18, 19, and 20. And we are packed. We are packed. We have met our 500 attendee mark. And so guess what? I'm moving the bar just a little bit higher because we have room. We're virtual. But I'm going to tell you, don't wait, because we will sell out. We will sell out. I am a conqueror. I'm an achiever. I'm an overachiever. I'm a workaholic. Call it what you will, but I want to see everybody there. However, we are, in order to service you all properly, we got to put a cap on that. We can't just say, like, everybody come on in. We're going to have to put a cap on it so that we make sure that all the workshops are filled and people's voices are heard. And April Ryan is being greeted with the utmost respect. The Women's Roundtable, where we have 6 or 7 women at the round table having discussion, that it is a rich discussion. Now, I wouldn't wait. It's available to you. Where is it available? I know you're asking that question. Okay, so if you go to our website is forward, WLF.org, or you use the hashtag forward WLF, you will find that there's a place to register. Okay, some of you all are looking for a tribe to be a part of, and let me tell you, the Women's Leadership Forum is the tribe that you want to be in. You want to be in that tribe because we are women that encourage other women. We want to see you lifted up. We want to see you get to the next level, and it doesn't come at a price. Let me tell you, just being a part of the forum affords you to be a part of 1,000 women that are already receiving our newsletter. We don't hound you about the newsletter or send your name out because you signed up. What we want you to do is to get connected to other women who can help you do your next thing. It's your thing. Do what you want to do. I can't tell you who to sock it to. Yeah, I'm pulling out the old stuff because the old stuff still works, y'all. The old stuff is still working. You hook up with somebody else in the forum, you will find that you will have your resources. With 1,000 women in the database for the Women's Leadership Forum, there is someone in there for everyone. All you have to do is ask. So you go to our website, you just put in your email, and we send you a lovely letter that says, thank you for placing your email here. And guess what? You are in time to receive information regarding the forum. Now, I told you a little bit about who's going to be there on day one. I said April Ryan. I'm saying it again. April Ryan is going to be here. And if you didn't know who she is, she's a White House news correspondent, and she is the bureau chief for the GRIO. I know a lot of you all know what the GRIO is. So you want to check her out. aprilryan.com. And then we have Sheila Murphy, who's an immigration attorney, and she is known worldwide. And she will be interviewing April Ryan. Not only will she be interviewing April Ryan, but she's moderating a women's table. Now, we have no script, just like I don't have today. We have no script, and we are talking about women's issues, the things that are on our minds. Hey, like, do we really like teaching our children? Isn't that what we send them to school for? Okay. Did we have to learn how to teach our children at home? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about, but let's not just complain, because that's not what that table is all about. The table is to come up with some solutions. What is the woman sitting next to you doing that might be able to help you? After we discuss that, because that's a lot to take in, we have a break. We have a little bit of a break for which you can patronize the vendors. You can talk to the sponsors. You can sit back and listen to the DJ if that's how you want to spend your time. If you need to go get your lunch, go get your lunch. But we tell you, come back. Come back, because in the afternoon, there are 13 classes, 13 workshops that you can participate in. Now, you're going to have to make a choice, unless you're going to hop from room to room to room to room to room, which you have the option of doing. But you might settle in on one. We have everything from social justice to finances to your health to budgeting. Okay. Fulton Bank is coming back this year. They're coming back to talk to you how to make that dollar stretch or how to use it properly. Some of us don't know how to use it properly. We still in the store. Okay, so you want to be here on day one, and then you're going to want to come back on day two. So day two, we have a writing session. If you want to know how to write a book, a paper, or if you're trying to figure out how to start your blog or an article. A lot of it gets stuck up here and you want to get it down on paper. We have somebody from Testimony Publishers. Her name is Christina Johnson, and she's going to help us to get what's up here out on paper. And then, okay, college students, I told you there's a lot to talk about here. College students, internships, apprenticeships, scholarships. Oh my, we've got it all for you. We're going to have that discussion. We want you to come to the table to talk about those things that are on your mind. Ask those questions, no holds bar, and we're going to answer it. Then career conversations. So we want you to stay with us. Do you see how we're progressing? Stay with us for that career conversation. Ask your question. Now, I'm practically sold out. I'm practically sold out of my VIP tickets. I'm going to do this. That's how many tickets I got left. Now, if that was too quick, I'm going to do it again. That's how many tickets that we have left for our VIP session. Okay, that's our happy hour. I said session, but it's really a happy hour. You want, first come, first serve. I just have many tickets, and you need to come to the table if you want to have happy hour with the Women's Leadership Forum, where we're going to spend the first hour talking about Sheila Murphy's book, which is a fabulous book. I got it right here. Took me 2 days to read because it was a fabulous read. Fabulous read. She's a wonderful humanitarian. Okay. There's no award that can be given to this lady who has been an encourager. You will find that she's infectious in her smile, and she teaches you a lot about resiliency and getting ahead. So you're going to want to be there for that. Then finally, on the final day, we are having a business roundtable. So you entrepreneurs that are out here that are trying to figure out, how do I keep myself going? What is PPP? What is PPE? What are we talking about here? Who can help me? Well, our roundtable is being moderated by M&T Bank, Deetra Mackey Miller, and we are excited about that. We're excited about that. Who better to bring to the table than a bank? Okay, helping us to understand what it is we need to do to make sure that we are in business for the future. Now, speaking of future, I can't keep my guest hanging any longer. Okay, I'm trying to figure out how to introduce her because I'm looking at this I'm looking at this bio, and oh my goodness. Okay, Dr. Irene. Now see, I practiced this, but it's not coming out right. I'm gonna let her say her last name. She's gonna help me out. Aninye. Aninye. Okay, she's clapping in the background for me. Yay, yay me. Okay, I'm not afraid. Dr. Irene Aninye is the director of science programs at the Society for Women's Health Research. What is that? It's a national nonprofit dedicated to improving women's health through science, policy, and education. Now, I was going to stop there, but I just want to tell you who we bring to the table. I'm getting up close here because I keep saying this because I want you women to know your worth and your value. Your worth and your value. The women that we're bringing to the table, oh my goodness, they are educated, they are authentic, they're sincere. They are people that you want in your Rolodex. I'm happy to know this person because she's a Washington, D.C. native, and Irene holds a BS in biochemistry from UMBC, go UMBC, and a PhD, wait a minute now, talk about trying to pronounce something. Okay, a PhD in molecular and integrative physiology from the University of Illinois at Urbana, is it Urbana? Okay, Champaign. All right, that was a mouthful. Okay, you need a degree just to say the degree. All right, I'm so happy to bring Irene on because then she can give us all the big words and break it on down all at the same time. I welcome to the table. I'm just gonna say Dr. Irene. That's easier for me. It's gonna be easier for everybody else too. But we're gonna practice that because I want to get it right. We don't want to butcher anybody's name, but I'm going to stick for now until I practice some more. Thank you for being on this platform, Dr. Irene. Welcome to the Women's Leadership Forum 2021. I'm trying to adjust my camera so I make sure that we get all of this in here. 2021. Welcome to the Women's Leadership Forum. Glad to have you.
Well, thank you for having me, Colette. I'm glad to be here.
Well, I want to get down to the nitty gritty here. Now, we said a whole mouthful of your degrees and that you're working at the Society for Women's Health. Mm-hmm. Okay, please tell us how you got there, because that seemed like a journey that takes more than a lifetime to get to. Tell us about your journey.
Well, like you said, I'm a DC native. I grew up in Maryland. I've actually, as a kid, I always loved science. My family is Nigerian. That's where my last name comes from. Aninye, okay. You said it pretty good.
Aninye, okay. Aninye, I'll get it.
And I always love science. And one of those things that, Nigerians love those medical degrees. So actually, I wanted to be a doctor, a medical doctor. And I was on my way to doing that. I was an undergrad at UMBC, University of Maryland, Baltimore County, just in Baltimore, down the street from you guys. And, life happened that made me pivot my decision. There's a lot of progress as I was studying and going through life, realizing there's a lot of progress in the medical field, but there's barriers to patient care in what we can offer. And so I wanted to now be on the other side of that, helping to develop solutions. So that's when I decided to go full-fledged into research. and go towards my PhD. So I got my degree, my bachelor's degree in biochemistry, moved out to Illinois for graduate school, worked on my master's and my PhD there. It did take some time. I will say I'm
Okay.
very glad that I went straight through. I was talking to a friend the other day about pausing and going back to school, and I don't think I can go all the way back to like sitting through lectures and taking tests. I've now been
Okay.
on the other side where I teach the lectures and give the tests, and I prefer it that way than the back end. So, when I finished my work that I did, my background is in, as you said, molecular integrative physiology. It's in reproductive endocrinology. And so reproductive, it's hormones. It's what we do as far as
Ooh, ladies.
development. And essentially, I study how hormones turn on and turn off different processes in the body. So I've looked at how estrogen causes tumors to grow on breast cancer. I've studied like progesterone, which is another hormone that women have, and how it affects them with fibroids and uterine fibroids. But then I also looked at thyroid hormone and how it's important in development. Did you know that your thyroid is needed to develop your eye as a baby and in the womb? It's also important for your metabolism and, weight and gain and loss throughout your life. So there's a lot of different things that your hormones are responsible for on that end that I've worked with. And even when you hear about endorphins and other things as far as brain goes, that's also hormonal based. So hormones are basically switches. And I studied a bunch of different ones, and I did research. When I came back to this area, I was working at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine, and that's where I was doing some of the more metabolism work, and also did some time at the National Institutes of Health in there. And so I still am very much interested in enhancing options in care in the research in the medical field, but I am no longer at the bench. I no longer have to breed mice. I no longer have to sniff tails in a petri dishes. However, long story, we will not go into that, but the work that I do at the Society for Women's Health Research is really looking at how we can design programs that can assess the science and then healthcare needs that are associated with women's health, and figure out how we can get that information out to be able to affect change. And that's what I love about my work here. I don't know if when I first learned about the society before I started working here in the 90s, we're about 30 years old. And as recent as 30 years ago, women were not included in major medical clinical trials. So a lot of the drugs and the work that women would take, they were not required to be included in those studies. So we really didn't know how they impacted us in our body when we took them.
Wow.
So the founder of the society, she had formed it to be able to advocate for the inclusion of women and minorities in clinical trials. And so we've been successful in pushing that and being able to get that passed. And now it's required in federal law, but there's still so much work that needs to be done to tease out how women's health and how sex plays a difference in health and disease. Because by nature of being a woman versus being a man, there are certain diseases. We work on two types of issues. Women's health issues, so that's like pregnancy and menopause and fibroids, things that by nature of being a woman affect you. But then there's also a whole subset of diseases that affect women differently than men. So like sleep, migraines, pain, drug interactions, Alzheimer's disease, all of these things. Eye health is another one that they're not unique to women, but the way a woman's body versus a man's body physiologically affects how they respond to certain stimuli or to certain disease development or even certain drugs. And so we work a lot on that.
Wow. Okay. So what I feel is like you gave us like career, you gave us like history, you gave us like the present, also the present, all in a nutshell. And so let me just go back to talk about your history for just a second, to ask you, I talked about this earlier because I jumped on Clubhouse for a second, and we were talking about, deciding careers.
Mhm.
right? Deciding careers. And what I felt like I heard you say is that, you started out one way
Mhm.
and then you switched. And what I do feel currently is that I feel your passion in what it is that you're talking about now. And so we talked about pivoting
Mhm.
pivoting even in your career to work in your passion. Do you feel that that's what you did?
Yes. So it's
Okay.
funny, I was actually a chemical engineering major. I was in my 4th year of college when I switched. At the start of my
Oh,
4th year, I switched my major to biochemistry.
okay.
So,
Wow.
but ultimately, the pivot, I still love science. I still love technical things. I liked working with my hands. I like being in the trenches of work. So my
Hmm.
pivot was now, what work was I doing while I was still being able to do my hands? So instead of, practicing medicines and research. So I loved the tinkering. I loved developing the experiments. I loved working with that element of things. And so I did do that pivot. It did, I had to stay a little bit longer in school to finish up. But I remember thinking, I can do it now, or I can finish school next year. I can work a job, still decide I don't want to do this, and then come back to school and have to take a lot more credits in order to get this degree, or make that shift now while I'm still in the thick of things. And so there are pivots because I chose something that was still broad enough. And even in my research, I'm still doing the things that I love. I'm still designing programs, I'm still tinkering. It's now like think tank style work. And getting my hands dirty there and figuring out, okay, how do we get this information to the communities that need them, whether they're policymakers, whether they're patients, whether they're clinicians or researchers. So I'm still doing that. I'm still doing biomedical. I'm still doing things that affect health, but recognizing that there's so many ways to do it. And so I was once, in the bench. I have taught, at the university level. I've taught at like K-12 level, but it's like in the end, I love educating. I love science, and I love making an impact and setting up for systems to really have effect change. And so that's something I've done regardless throughout my career, and I continue to do.
Okay, so educate us. Since doctor, educate
Try.
us. Okay. What do you see that's most prevalent in women today? What is if you're saying like the number one thing that we need to pay attention to, it would be, and I'm asking you to fill in the blank.
The number one?
Number
Ouch.
one, you got to choose one. Just choose one.
Um,
There are many things, but what should we be most concerned with today in our health?
I wouldn't necessarily pick a disease, but I would
Okay.
say it's listening to your body and
Mhm.
advocating for solutions for yourself. And so, regardless of what it is, as women, we tend to take care of everybody else around us. We kind of coin, or we, it's not even a joke, but we coin kind of women in the home are the CMO or the chief medical officer. And
Okay.
they are responsible for either oftentimes parent care, child care, themselves. By the time they do their work, their home, that we talk about work-life balance, but there also needs to be work-life health balance. And by the time you take care of all those things that are going on, we push our own care to the side and we kind of push through. And so there's things that are going on in our bodies where we're just saying it's because I'm tired. Yes, you are tired, but that tiredness has caused like your inflammation to increase, or the tiredness has caused your tolerance for pain to go down, so that now you're actually seeing things go on in your body that you wouldn't have paid attention to otherwise. But we kick it to the side. And so I would definitely say the biggest issue is us not listening to our bodies. And then when we hear stuff, not to just say, oh, it's because of my hormones. that I'm moody, or yeah, I'm expecting pain. We normalize the pain when we're on our menstrual cycles, or, I always have headaches. I always have pain. I always have cramps. My back always hurts this way, but not realizing that even if it's always hurt since you were 15 years old, might actually mean that you might have endometriosis, or you might have fibroids, or you might have sleep apnea. And I'm not saying everything is a disease. It's not all
Right.
clinical, but even just little habits that you might be able to tweak in your life to help your overall health that we often overlook. And so I'd say that's probably the biggest problem, is that we're overlooking our own body and our own health care and the things that,
Okay.
you know.
Okay. So what what you just said is extremely important, and extremely important, I think, to our base of women, because I think we're poor advocates for ourselves.
Mhm.
And so what does advocacy look like in a doctor's office? When we are to be advocates, what does that look like? Now, I'm not saying you go in there and you telling the doctor off, but what does advocacy look like in a doctor's office?
I think it's being prepared. So when you go into a doctor's office, when you go in for a visit, um, thinking about what you want to accomplish in that visit before you leave. So if there's something going on, yes, you're going for your normal checkup, and they usually will ask, "How are you doing?" "I'm fine." Or
Mm-hmm.
you're like, "Well, I'm kind of in pain. I've been tired lately." But we haven't really thought about what's made us tired, right? And one of the things that you have to think about when we say we're tired, does it mean that you're fatigued? Does it mean that you're sore? Does it mean that you're sleepy? We just say tired, but tired is a whole. So they just hear that and they're like, "Okay, that's fine." What does that mean? You're actually falling asleep in the middle of the day? Or does that mean your body's just really fatigued? Because there's a difference between not having rest and not getting sleep, because I can sleep 7 hours a day, a night, and still be tired and still be sleepy in the morning and hitting the snooze button, right? But 7 hours, some people would cry to get 7 hours straight hours of sleep at night. So those are things that, I think being prepared in that way, and don't be afraid to write it down, right? So you're not thinking, "Oh, I can't remember what it is." Write it down, put a note in your phone, so when they ask you, you're like, "This is what's been happening." I think journaling helps. We have a lot of health apps that are out there that women can use to track, their cycles, to track symptoms, to keep track of the medications they're on that are over the counter or prescription. And so keeping those logs will help, because what happens is, if you find out, "I've been tired for the last couple of weeks," but then you go back into these apps and see what happened 3 weeks ago, you might have realized you pulled something, or that's when you had a lot of meetings in your calendar. So you were mentally stressed and fatigued. And so there's a lot of things that, if you come in, I think being prepared will help. So when the doctor asks, "Well, what does that mean?" you don't have to start struggling to figure out and remember what's going on. You're right there and you're kind of ready, like, "Oh, well, it started 3 weeks ago. It started 5 days ago. This is what was going on." And you can help give them the information, because a doctor can only diagnose if they have the information. So what you present them with is what they're going to kind of tally and figure out what it all means. So the more info you can give your doctor, the more that they can tell you, "Okay, this is something that you need to watch. This is something we need to intervene, or this is something that's natural." Because there are some things that are very normal and natural that we just hadn't paid attention to. So we think it's new, or that we think we're the only ones going through it. And a lot of women are, because it just might be something that is baseline. And like you said, this community that we have, that's what helps when you share amongst your friends and trusted support system, whether it's your family, your girlfriends, or what have you. If you share that, somebody's like, "Yeah, that happens to me too." "Well, what did you do? What did you do? How did you work on this?" And so there's
Absolutely.
a lot of things that you can try. So when you go to the doctor, right, you could say, "I've tried this and I've tried this and this didn't work." And you kind of have that data. Call me the scientist, of course. It's like you have some data to bring to that doctor, so you don't look scattered when you're in an appointment, right? And so then you find yourself now having to make things sound worse than they are, because they're not believing you, right? It's like, oh, if I don't say that I was crying in pain, then they don't think that the pain was bad. Well, for me, I might not cry, but that pain is bad for me. It's like the pain is, it's a lot for me, even though it didn't bring me to tears, but it's a lot for me and I need assistance, right? And so I think those things would help. They would definitely help in advocating when you go to the doctor's office.
Okay, so I'm gonna jump in here and say a couple things. Okay, and I don't laugh, but they have the smiley face, and then they have the frown on the other end. And a lot of us, we sit there and we like, oh, let's contemplate, like, where do we fall in this? And we really, that pain is a 10. We're scared to even mark the 10.
Yeah.
Mark the 10.
Mark it.
Because the doctor is going to go off of what you say. If you say, oh, it's a 5, and they figure, well, you can stand some more, and so you only need this dose, or you only need X, based off the fact the pain is not that bad. But you were laying on the floor the other day, or your journal is indicating, like it should be a 10. Be honest. The doctor they don't have a stake in that claim for your saying the pain is 10, or it's off the chart, or I cannot stand that pain because it is just it is overwhelming. I know that I went through a cycle of periods where I was on the floor. I was on the floor, and I was on the floor at work, and I had to tell my doctor that was the type of pain that I was having, where I was not able to function properly at work.
That right there, how does it impact your daily life? That helps to put in context for your doctors. So when you say, I wasn't able to stand in the kitchen and cook for 10 minutes, or I wasn't able to sit at my desk, or I wasn't able to climb out of bed because of this, or I was stuck in the bathroom for 30 minutes, or, those things help, because your doctor may not be a woman, your doctor, or even if she is a woman, she may not have experienced it. So helping to put it in terms that they can visualize a little bit better. So if you're saying, I had a 9, what does that 9 look like for you? You can say, I could not do this.
Right.
These certain functions it inhibited. So now they understand how it's affected your quality of life. And then they know, or they have a better frame for now how they can tackle it, or what types of treatments will help to improve those things.
Okay. So I wasn't going to talk about this at all, but I want to stay right here for a minute, because this is actually is extremely helpful for women, and African American women in particular, because our thresholds seem to be much higher. Or and what I want to say about that is it seems to be much higher. I think it's that we don't tell, or we don't report the number where, what do I want to say? We don't report exactly what it is that we're feeling at the
There
time.
are certain,
right?
There are certain cultural norms, social norms in general for women, right? And then depending on the culture, the family, the area where you're from, there's things in an African American community, a lot of times there's strength in not pride in being strong and not showing weakness. And so we just soldier on. And that can be good in some contexts, but then sometimes we're sacrificing or we're compromising our health for that. There definitely are some biases that we hold and others hold. It's like, oh, you're strong. You can handle it. Everyone's like, everyone gets applauded for being strong, but there is something that seems to be a bit higher in, at least within, the Black community or women of color, that you have to be strong. And so we don't want to say when we're in pain, but a lot of work that we're doing now at SWHR, we have Next month is Endometriosis Awareness Month. We're actually releasing a patient empowerment toolkit
Oh, okay.
on endometriosis, and it talks about what is it, why, risk factors, how to talk to your doctor. We actually have a doctor's visit aid in there, so it questions, and you can fill out stuff, so you have a piece of paper to go in with you that tracks everything, different treatment options and things like that. So when we write down, and we have endometriosis, a lot of it's pain, heavy menstrual bleeding and pain. But we're just like, well, it's always been that way. Well, if you have a history of an undocumented, potentially predisposed heredity, that it can run in your family, well, you might not realize that that's not normal. It's normal it's the average for your family, but it's not normal. So your mom may have had it, but she didn't know. And your grandmother, your aunt may have had it and she didn't know. And so they didn't realize when you said you had pain, they didn't know that there was any problem, because that's the same pain she had. And that's the same pain her sister had. Right. And so and that's why we have to it helps to have community, to be able to have those conversations, so you can find out when what you're experiencing might actually be different and not okay, or it might need just a little bit more investigation, or you might need to call attention to your doctor. So that is helpful. There are definitely biases when it comes to pain perception, and it can be very disrupting to.
Yeah. So I want to just share with the audience, what you're saying is so very true. Even in my case, and it must seem like I have a lot of cases here, but in my case, I have kidney stones, and they're reoccurring, so they're smaller. And with kidney stones, you can pass the kidney stone through your urine if they're small enough. Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't know. I didn't know that these kidney stones were like growing, and they grew. Now this sounds very, very small, but I had an 8 millimeter kidney stone, and the hospital wanted to know, by the time I got to the hospital, how was I walking? How was I walking? And I didn't know. And it was just, I carried the pain around with me. There would be times that I'd be on the floor, and this is no knock to my doctor, but initially, I think I was diagnosed with a UTI. With a UTI. I had gone in and out of emergency 3 times, prescriptions 3 times. And I'm going to tell you, believe it or not, sitting in the emergency room on the 3rd time, there was a incoming patient who said, "Oh, I know what you have." And I'm like, okay, first of all, I don't want to talk to you, sir, because I'm in so much pain. You are trying to have conversation. He said, "I recognize a kidney stone because I've had them." And so it led me to say to the emergency tech, can we search for that? And lo and behold, that's what I had. I not only had one, I had 3. I had 3. Now, that's all to say, when I went back to my primary care physician and I talked about it, right? Not to get on him or anything like that, but when I talked to him about it, he brought to light just what you're saying. He said, "I don't know what that feeling is like because I've never had it, but I do know that women describe it as though they are having a child. When it passes, it feels like they're having a child." And what I said to him was, if you imagine any object passing through you, and I meant his male body part, if you imagine that is what it feels like. And that's when he kind of like shirked and was like, "Ooh." And yes, exactly. That's how it feels. But in order for them to understand that you are not your scale of pain, you have to describe that, and you have to be very graphic in that. And I'm not saying ugly graphic, but you have to let him or her know the magnitude for which you are feeling that pain, in order for them to understand what they need to do next. It's not that they aren't equipped, but they might not be able to relate to you in your pain if they've never had that before. You
So
know?
think about like a cheesecloth, right? And you squeeze through your kidney filters, blood, um, solvents and different things through your system. And think of like a cheesecloth, and an 8 millimeter is probably size of a pea, maybe. Think about a pea. Push that through a cheesecloth.
Yeah, it wasn't going.
It wasn't
right.
And so
it wasn't going, and that was the problem. That was the
yes,
problem.
Yes. So it's like, while you said it's small, that's not small. That's not small at all.
Ladies, here's what I'm going to tell you. It grew. And so I waited a long time, thinking that it was something else, and it wasn't. And there was no amount of water that was going to flush that out. And I'm going to tell you, the procedure that I went through, I wish that on some people like childbirth is great. Childbirth was not great for me. give me drugs. Okay. And other than it was a vacation away, but it was in a hospital. And there was nothing wonderful about that. There was nothing wonderful about that. I don't wish that on anyone. And what we're trying to say here is, don't marginalize your pain.
Yes.
Do not marginalize your pain. You let them know. You let a doctor know what that pain is, and you stick with it. And you drill down. You drill down until you two are on the same plane. You understand one another. Mm-hmm. Don't leave there, and if somebody asks you, well, what did he say? And you're still going, I don't know, but he said, take this. Don't leave out of that office without knowing why you're taking what you're taking.
Yeah. And to be fair, the doctors, they want to give time, but you have only so much time, right? In an appointment, because they want to get to the next patient the same way that you want them to get to you on time. But
that's right.
Having that information helps to get to that destination a lot quicker and less stressful for you in trying to rediscuss. And he's not understanding. Let me explain it another way. And he doesn't seem to understand my pain. Let me try to describe it another way. And he doesn't, and then I say, he's like, oh, it's nothing, or really it's not a problem. Well, maybe I'm not explaining it right. You kind of go through, and then it's like, I have to escalate this. And so, yeah, going in prepared and knowing, okay, I want to, but also being fair that there's a lot of things you watch on TV. You have everything. Oh, I think I've somewhat had half the things that we work with at my job, because
and that Google, right? Yes. We Googling everything and feeling everything that we Google, right?
Yes. So we have to be open-minded to the idea that it may not be something serious. And that's where I always say little tweaks, little habits can help, right? Little things that you can do, that you can build up a habit, will help. If it's, I used to tell people I was allergic to the gym. It just was what it was. And so I didn't get the amount of time, because, it's like, oh, it takes like an hour and a half in the classes. And then you have to get ready. Then you have to get home, you have to shower. And I'm tired when I get home. And I had all these reasons, until I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do 15-minute little exercise video. Or I'm going to go in, and I would get on the treadmill, and I would just go 20 minutes while I watch a TV show on Netflix, right? I think I was watching Friends or something like that. And that's a 22-minute show. By the time it's done, I'm done. And I did
Okay,
that.
stop right there. Stop right there for a minute.
Mhm.
You can get your exercise game on while watching Netflix. Do you hear that? You can get you can get started if you just watch. If you do, you could do two. We always are juggling. So why not juggle your exercise game and Netflix? So I don't have a rhyme like Netflix and chill or anything like that. But Netflix and walk or Netflix and you fill in the blank. You can get your exercise game on.
Yes.
Right.
And I just, and that's, they're usually what, 22-minute shows or something like that.
Yeah.
And then that was it. But that 20 minutes, I started doing that, and that got me in the gym like 2-3 times a week because I reduced the stress of this 2-hour gym time that I just didn't have to kick out in my day. And before I knew it, now the 20 minutes, and then I would go to some machines and I would be there. And so it was okay, but it reduced that anxiety or that, those barriers of it's just too much. Or even now that we're in COVID, YouTube, I'll do, I found 10-minute exercises, those power ones or 15 minutes. And they could do a good sweat. They're standing in place. They have some that are apartment friendly, so you're not jumping up and down with your people underneath you. And there are a lot of resources, but I say basically those little victories, those little wins, you do enough of those and they build up and they reduce the angst of starting something that's too big. And so those are the things I think that really help to build your overall health along the way. You don't have to go on a big diet, but it just might mean getting fruit instead of, some candy and a couple snacks that you like and keeping them. So when you want a snack, they're actually semi-healthy snacks. You have your cheats. Like I like fruit snacks. They come in small containers if it's something sweet, but they're like 80 calories. So they're a lot better to go by than candy or sweet or soda or something like that. Whatever you can do, these little things that you can replace, they add up. They really do add up.
So we have a very smart audience here. So, I wasn't quick enough to come up with the Netflix and rhyme, but we have an audience member who said Netflix and fit. Netflix and fit, right?
Oh yeah.
I want to also point out that we have Janice in our audience. Janice in our audience, right? And as a reminder to our audience, we were sometimes birthed with a doctor and we stay with that doctor until death, right? There is no harm in changing. Medicine is actually a business. It's a business. And just like businesses, there are good doctors and there are doctors who need a little work, right? And so we need to find doctors that fit our needs. If you're not getting the answers that you need to get from your doctor, and I actually saw this on some game show, one of the number one reasons to switch a doctor is that doctor doesn't listen to you. They are not listening to what it is that you are telling them about yourself. If they're not listening to you, it's time to switch. It might be time to switch. Let me say that. Yeah. It might be time to switch. Now, what you heard our good doctor just say is come prepared, because the doctor, no, they don't have all day to sit and listen to everything, from the beginning of the time to right now. So come prepared with your information in hand, answer the questions to the fullest that you can, but you have to be prepared and your doctor needs to be prepared to listen to what it is that you have to say. If that doctor is rushing you out of the door, you may need to think, is that the doctor for you? So I wanted I'm ending on that note, and I'm also extending an invitation here because we have a lot more to talk about. And I'm going to share this with the audience. I hope that I'm not embarrassing you. But Dr. Irene, you were nervous about coming on today. Okay. And you did a fine job. You did a fine job, and it was a great presentation. But in there, I got a bunch of questions. And there's only so much time that we can spend together, although I could talk to you all evening long. There's only so much time that we can spend, but I need to invite you back because I believe that there's a lot more that you can share with our audience. And I know that the people that are listening and watching us today have questions about their own health when it comes to the sciences. I wanted to talk about sleep today because I can't seem to get it right. And I couldn't even get to that question. But I appreciate you being here because we're important. And if we don't, the other thing that I took away from you is our own self-care, that we need to pay attention to ourselves, pay attention to our bodies, listen to ourselves, connect with one another, right? Connect with one another, because in the stories that we tell each other, we can not only find some solace, but we can find information that allows us to get to some of our answers and get to our doctors to be able to ask the questions that we might have in common. And then we can get to some solutions, because that's ultimately what we want, are solutions for ourselves. So I want to thank you. I want to invite you back. I'm not going to put you on the spot for like saying, yes, you're going to come back, but we're going to talk after. We're going to have that after talk, right? And I got to bring you back on to help our women. I want to remind everybody that the good doctor here is going to be at the Women's Leadership Forum, right? She is going to be in what we call our Connection Village, and that's that break that I told you about. Now, I don't want you all rushing to her table. And when I say table, it's a virtual table, but in going into her room and overpowering her. But bring your questions. Just like she's helping me out, she is that type of person that wants to help women and help you in your answers and help you to advance in the health arena. So, okay, you didn't ask me, but I'm going to tell you, when is the forum? The forum is March 18th through the 20th. Now, when is the good doctor going to be there? She's going to be there on the 18th in the Connection Village. So if you don't have your ticket, you might want to run and get your ticket. You can get your ticket on the website forwardwlf.org. You can find the hashtag forwardwlf. We're on Instagram. If you need to go back and view this segment, you can see it on YouTube, or you can see it on our Women's Forum Facebook page. We come to you live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 6 p.m. on Facebook Live and YouTube. So you can always catch it on the replay. We ask that you tell your friends about what's happening and what we're talking about here, because it helps for us to share. This is what Dr. Irene was talking about, is us sharing our stories so that we're not operating in a vacuum and we're not operating alone. Okay, I said there's 1,000 women in our newsletter database. There's 1,000 women. There's going to be somebody that can relate to you in our tribe of women. And so we invite you to come and join us. You can join us silently, but we do like for you to speak up and tell us who you are and tell us what's on your mind so that we can all share. Now, I need to tell you all what's coming up next, okay? Because we've got oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Friday, okay. I don't know if this is STEM week or not, But we have the mathematician coming forward on Friday the 12th.
I love it.
Miss Audrey is coming, and she is the owner of ACG Math Tutoring. If your children are having difficulty in trigonometry, calculus, and any other math area, she's going to make it easy, simple, and plain. I watched one of her YouTubes and I'm like, oh, do I really want to go back to school? No. But she made it so simple that your children will be able to understand. And some of us adults who've decided to go back to school, she can help the adult learner. Now, she has a big story to tell about her transition from being an athlete to owning her own business. And so I invite you to join us on Friday, February the 12th. Now, it is a Black History Month, and we're celebrating not only Black businesses, but voila, Blacks in business. All right. So you see two Black women here. We're having a discussion, and it's important. It's important. We support one another. We want to support you. We're supporting Black businesses by featuring Black businesses 28 days in the month of February on our Instagram and our Facebook pages. So we want you to go visit us and put a little heart, put a little like, put a little thumbs up. We appreciate what we're seeing here today. Continue to follow us. This was February. We were supposed to talk about the heart, but we're too busy talking about how we enter the doctor's office. But we're going to keep our hearts healthy in the month of February. And if you need to talk about your heart, go to the doctor. Write it down. Tell them your story. Tell them what's bothering you. Tell them what's on your heart. Okay. And there's many ways that we can talk about our heart going into the doctor. And I want you to have your story correct, straight, and like the good doctor said, and your journal, the data. Okay. She's a woman of the data. Okay. Bring your data with you when you go into that office. Then in March, coming up in March, can we all say forum? I can't say it enough, but I'm going to say it again. March 18th, 19th, and 20th. Go register to be a part of the forum. We want to see you there. We want to encourage you. We want to hear your stories. We have coaches there. We have mentors there. All you have to do is ask and sit at your, type down on your computer. I'm going to be there and I'm going to click into Miss Irene's room. And I'm going to ask her a question that's probably on the other 10 people's minds that are already in the room. Share your story. So we are here for you. I want you to always continue to be safe out there. Mask up. Be socially distanced. Wash those hands. And I want to see you on the next broadcast. I appreciate you. I appreciate you, Dr. Irene. Thank you for being on this broadcast. We hope to see you again and again and again because we got a lot to talk about. All right, everybody, we're going to give you our sign off, which is we waving, and we hope to see you soon. Take care, everybody.